Welcome back to the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. I'm Alice Stockton-Rossini. Thanks for joining us. Jon Overholt is a retired emergency room physician. The name of his book, Serendipity, Better to be Lucky Than Good. Now, Jon, I'm reading your synopsis, and it just sounds too good to be true.
It is. I wish the rest of my life had been that lucky.
What do you mean the rest of your life?
Well, it's like the old yin yang, you have the angel sitting on your left shoulder and the devil on the right.
Yeah.
Depends on which eye you're looking out of.
I see.
Anyway,
Yeah.
but I'm extraordinarily blessed.
What compelled you to share this story? My
younger sister, Christine, who's the older of my two sisters, she would just go crazy when I would call and say, hey, guess what? I went to the Kentucky Derby with a patient, now friend of mine, and I have a $1 piece of the horse, true, and we won the Kentucky Derby. And then it goes on, he won California Chrome, who became very famous internationally. He won a $10 million race in Dubai, etc. And she says, how come it happens to you? And I said, I don't know. I think it's because I can talk to just about anybody about anything. I'm not knowledgeable, but I'm interested.
It's just like a series. A paper boy wins a trip to Disneyland without even knowing there was a contest. You were invited to go to medical school. You met Queen Elizabeth just by walking up to her. How do you explain this?
Well, as my wife would say, I don't think you have any judgment, honey. You just don't know when I talk to people in the grocery store line sometimes. I apparently have a pretty good sense of humor, and I just enjoy the interaction with people. I always have, and they always teach me something, even if it's 30 seconds about the price of tomato soup today. I'm sure it's because my parents were both very interesting people, and a couple of great grandfathers actually, who had a broad interest in intellect and stuff. So it just happened. I've been blessed with it, and fortunately, it's worked out well. So I stayed out of jail, still married after 57 years, bless her heart. Mm-hmm. And I'm just a lucky guy.
What is it that you want people to take from Serendipity?
I'd like people to know that in today's busy world, if you stop looking at your phone all day and pay attention to the world around you, I'm an observer of everything. It's not intentional, but I noticed something on the house they're building here the other day that was different. And I saw a car that had an interesting bumper sticker. And I talked to a guy at Home Depot the other day about something. He turned out to be a military pilot. If you pay attention to and be genuinely interested in somebody you're standing next to, you never know what they're going to tell you or teach you. And if you have even a smattering of knowledge about their background, like that airplanes fly, and you say, I like airplanes, the next thing you know, you're being invited to a closed military aviation event. It just happens that way. But I think it can happen to anybody, but you've got to have you got to pay attention to everything and be interested in it. That's the secret. Are you interested in everything? Because you never know who you're going to be talking to. And I don't have that interest intentionally, sort of, but I think other people could. And today's electronic world is killing that for a lot of people. They're so involved in being on TikTok and Facebook and so forth, both of which I do a little bit, but it closes you out to observing this incredible world around us. Incredible means good and bad, of course, but it's out there, and I find it all exciting. It's just excited every day when I wake up. But everybody can do that.
Well, everybody can get out of their own way and take an interest in someone else beside themselves.
That's the secret. And
yeah.
The important thing is when you're talking to somebody, I think I expressed it clearly, don't bullshit. Don't try and be something that you're
not.
But
this is a book of 40 stories?
Yeah, there's 40 stories about things that have happened to me. I got to ride on a nuclear submarine. I was filling in for a friend at an urgent care center while I was retired. And a guy comes in with two young kids. The kid's got an ear infection. And I just happened to mention was he from Sacramento? And he says, no, I live in Honolulu with my family, but I'm over here visiting my mom, their grandmother. But otherwise, I'm in the Navy there. Oh, what do you do? And he said, well, I'm involved with submarines. And then I said, have you ever seen that picture of that big submarine coming up like a whale and then splashing down out of the water? He said, oh, yeah, we do that often. He said, I'm in charge. I'm the chief petty officer on our boat. So when we come into Pearl Harbor in one of these nuclear attack subs, we're there for 6 months getting refitted, looked at, and all the officers are off the boat and I'm in charge. It's my boat for 6 months. And I said, are you kidding me? He said, if you see that picture and it's exciting to you, I can have you have that experience, because when the boat's in a couple times during that 6 months, we invite people like congressmen or the president or business people to come and take a ride when we go out for a few hours after we've done something to the boat. He said, if you want to, here's my phone number. I'm going home tomorrow, call me. Well, I called him, and 2 weeks later, I'm flying to Honolulu on a Saturday and getting a ride on a nuke sub on Sunday.
Wow.
It's all just, but if I hadn't asked him what he did and listened, I wouldn't have known that.
Right.
So it's that kind of stuff.
So you're hoping that people can have similar positive experiences just by being aware of the people who come in and out of their lives and making an effort to get to know them.
Yeah, exactly. I think this kind of stuff is out there. This is a big world, obviously. And there are an incredible amount of people who don't have fancy titles, but do very interesting things. And you just have to avail yourself. It's like with Queen Elizabeth. She had invited our horse to race at Ascot, and the horse got hurt, but I was over there for the races that on a Wednesday, and our horse wasn't racing. So in the middle of the afternoon, I decided to go for a walk on the backside of the grandstand, spectacular facility. And as I'm walking across this green grass, 300-meter wide infield, I spot someone in a blue dress down there, because that's what she had on. We saw her when she arrived in this carriage. And I kept walking. And then if you look under her, Queen Elizabeth, you'll see there's a picture of me, a selfie with her in the background. I'm looking at the camera, and a guy next to me, I'm the only person down there with her. She's in a small group, no security. And the guy behind me says, you want a picture of the Queen? And I said, I just took one. He said, no. He said, I'm with the BBC. I'm filming her right now. She's really nice. Just walk up to her and she'll let you take your picture. And I'm thinking, I'll be in the Tower of London the rest of my life if I try that. But he kept prodding me and kidding me. So I walked up. She stopped. She was talking to two jockeys. She's a very famous equestrian.
Right.
And she looked at me and smiled, and I smiled. And someone just said, if the Queen ever addresses you like that, men are supposed to bow at the waist and tip their hat. I was in a full top hat outfit for this special event. And she smiled and said, go ahead and take my picture, and gave me the okay. And I got this incredible close-up of her. It's in the book. And there's more to that story too. I gave her a picture of the horse. Actually, I talked my way past security before I had done that to get into her private box. I guess I have no judgment as to when you can't do something, probably. If you smile, you're kind, you're funny, you're sincere, and away you go.
Yes. But your subtitle, Better to be Lucky Than Good.
Yes.
What does that mean?
Well, it's sort of, I've heard that expression before. You're doing something and then something good happens. You didn't expect it to happen, and you realize you were really lucky. Being good is when you're trying to do something, I thought, and it turns out well or it doesn't. But if it turns out well and you didn't really know why, but it did, then you're being lucky other than good.
Right. Okay.
It's an old expression, so.
And you're just getting started here. So this is your first published book, and you got more coming?
I've written 2 more this summer. I had knee surgery in the spring that didn't go very well, so I had a lot of free time. And some people had said to me I had a nice writing style. I've never written a book. I've always enjoyed, doing term papers and things. But anyway, I got 4 grandchildren, 18 through 22. All of them have significant boyfriends and girlfriends, 2 of whom I think are getting ready to tie the knot. So I said, I got to write a book about how to pick your mate. So it's called Dr. John's primer on how to pick the right person.
Oh, that sounds like a good one. I like that.
It was good, and I've got it out. It's being edited by some friends of mine right now and commenting on. And then the other one I just finished is a children's book called Lumpy, Lumpy. It's about there's a thing. Camels have 2 kinds, 1 hump or 2, and the two humpers are called Bactrian camels, and Lumpy's the 2 Bactrian camel that got picked to go from Mongolia, where he was raised, to Egypt with this guy and the stuff that happens to him.
Okay.
And it's got all sorts of pictures of camels and funny stuff, and it's about 15 pages, but it's for kids like 4 to 6.
All right. How are you telling people about this book?
I'm really not promoting it. I didn't do it to make any money. My granddaughter said I should go on TikTok. And so I've written about 8 scripts for little pieces about some of the stories there. I'm known as Uncle Al there. I'm in a funny hat and sunglasses. We'll try that out too.
You are Jon Overholt, author of Serendipity, Better to Be Lucky Than Good. Thank you so much.
Very gracious, and you're very nice to talk to too. I appreciate that.
Kurt Duncan does construction in Michigan's Upper Peninsula, a beautiful area of the U.S., and one with a serious wolf problem, thanks to the Department of Natural Resources. Now, Kurt, you say this is the first book you've ever written and probably your last. What's the deal?
I don't know why I wrote that. I just did. I'll be honest with you. I wrote this book while I was incarcerated for I did 2 months in county for my role in what I did. But, what happened was the DNR planted wolves up here. They had the bright idea to bring moose over from Isle Royale back in the early 90s. So they brought 15 of them and they airlifted them, and they decided they needed something to keep the moose under control. So they brought 35 nuisance wolves from Minnesota and planted them here in the UP up by Baraga. And the moose all died from brainworm, every darn one of them. But the wolf thrived, and the wolf is down across the whole UP now. We have wolves in every county of the UP now, every single county. And we have farmland to the north of Cedarville, if you read my book. And I know a lot of the farmers, and I had hunted coyotes all my life. So one thing led to another, and, they were getting a lot of dead loss from the predators. The coyotes are one thing, but the wolves, they were really starting to wreak havoc on these farmers with their cattle and their sheep. And when they're lambing and when they're calving, they have a lot of problem with the wolves.
Why would you airlift wildlife from another state? Why would you do that?
Well, I don't know how that was, to me, it was really stupid because, like 15 moose is just a gamble, but they airlifted them from Isle Royale. I remember watching it. And then they planted them up by Baraga, which is what we call the west end of the UP. And so then they decided, what we got to have, because they used Isle Royale, that national park up in Lake Superior. They used that as I don't know. They've studied Isle Royale for years because there's moose and there's wolves on Isle Royale, and it keeps everything in check. But that's a different deal, because they're only 13 miles from Canada up there. And when it freezes, everything can migrate off that island. But we have a real issue here now. And, it's wreaked havoc on our deer. This UP is known for its deer hunting, and the wolves have just decimated our deer herd.
So what did you end up in jail for?
For taking wolves. I was working on one of the farms for a farmer that was losing a lot of sheep. And I ended up, I had worked for these farmers before for coyote control, and, we've been dealing with wolves for 20 years up here now, and they've just gotten real bad in the last 10. And so I ended up going to his farm and working for him, and I took 13 wolves off of there in 21 days. And they had lost 11 sheep, 11 ewes, and close to 40 lambs that spring. And within 2 weeks of me trapping there and getting them out of there, we had no more dead loss. So we have a real problem up here, and the DNR keeps covering it up, like lying to the farmers, telling them that's not what they're seeing and this and that. But they damn sure arrested me for it.
Well, you said that there were a lot of lies told about you.
Yeah, they said that I shot bears and that I took turkeys and deer and all this in the charges when they charged me, which was so far from the truth, it wasn't even funny. They said that I shot 3 eagles, which I did not shoot 3 eagles. They were caught in my traps. They were incidental catches. They were dead when I got there. It happens to all trappers. There ain't a trapper up here in the UP that ain't caught an eagle. And usually you can release them, but these ones was dead.
From listening to you, I feel like somebody was out to get you. You were charged with 127 counts or violations. Most of them were dismissed.
Yeah, they wanted to make me a poster child for, killing wolves to deter anybody from doing it.
They wanted to make an example out of you.
That's exactly it. And they ended up, I paid the price. I mean, I was sentenced to 90 days in jail. I did 60. They held 30 in events. I was on 2 years probation, 400 hours community service. I lost my hunting and trapping rights for the rest of my life. And so while I was incarcerated, I decided to get right and tell my side of the story and what really happened.
Are you out talking about this? I mean, are you out to clear your name?
Not really. Up here, I'm viewed as a hero. Everybody up here understands the issue, and there's nowhere that I go that people aren't shaking my hands, trying to buy me lunch. There's all kinds of beautiful things that have been said about me. Very little. I'm sure in other parts of the country they wouldn't like it, but up here, everybody understands what the issue is. We're trying to get it out there that we wrote it and get the story out, but I mean, it's been published, it's out, people are buying it.
I mean, there's so many interesting angles to this story. Would you characterize it as a government overreach?
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. I mean, they've been putting it to us up here, and the lie after lie. And, they put an undercover DNR guy on me. That's how I finally got caught. And they definitely wanted me, and they wanted me out of the woods. When I'd go sell my furs, they had undercover guys there, and they were listening to me and shit and started following me. And then one guy, he posed himself as a trapper from downstate and wanted to get into coyote trapping. And I was talking to him, and he ended up being undercover DNR. And he got in too far and knew too much, and I got arrested.
How long ago did this happen?
This happened in 2020, 5 years ago.
Do you think it's still happening?
Absolutely. People call me. I still confer with everybody about these wolves. I seem to be like the authority on it, or they think I am, which I don't think I am, but I do know a lot about the wolves. But there's a lot still going on. Like all the hunters I know, they're still seeing them in their deer blinds. I was actually cornered by 3 wolves one time after I got out of jail. I was brook trout fishing because I can still fish, and I had 3 wolves surround me. And had I not had my pistol, I wouldn't be here today. That's how thick they are here. And that's what everybody's bitching about is we need a season to control these. There's nothing that predates them. They aren't hunted, so they're not scared of nothing. Like they'll take your dog. It's just a matter of time before a human being gets killed up here.
Well, then something might happen.
Right. It's bad, and everything I wrote's the truth. I mean, you read my book, it's just 100% truth. That's how I was raised. I'm thinking about writing another book, actually. I don't know why I wrote this. It's probably the last book I'll ever write, but I've got people really wanting me to write a sequel to this one.
Okay.
Well, actually, I've thought about it. I'm going to do it. It's just finding that block of time that I can do it in.
Yeah.
But,
well, you know what? If it's meant to be, you'll find it.
True.
You managed to get this done.
I think everything happens for a reason.
All right. Kurt Duncan, author of Song Dogs, One Man's Story. Thanks so much for talking to me.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Joseph Sebenick was in law enforcement for 37 years. The last 8, he carried out investigations in private prisons. He witnessed the challenges correction administrators face every day and decided to share his findings in Going Back to Prison, the Relapse into Criminal Behavior. You say correction workers see prisoners differently than the rest of us. What do you mean by that?
They work long shifts. They work a lot of hours. And, they see them as, someone who treats them very nice, who talks to them, and they're out there on the units for 12, 13, 14 hours a day, and they just get to know them on a personal basis. And I think that they lose that perspective as to why they're actually there.
The first thing you write in your synopsis is about 4 inmates being murdered in an Oklahoma correctional facility in 2015.
Yeah, that did take place. It took place in September of 2015. And again, I think the premise was, was it a planned event or was it something that just happened spontaneously? It was between 2 gangs that were housed in the prison. And it just took place like on a Saturday afternoon, primarily when most people, at least the administration wasn't around at the time, so there was limited resources, and it just, one gang attacked another gang, which, and it ended up with 4 people being killed, 2 from each gang.
Does this kind of thing happen all the time?
There are a lot of assaults inside the prisons. And it's for a variety of reasons. And I say that because, sometimes an assault is against a guard or a prison employee, where an inmate has to get off the unit because he's being told by other inmates to get off the unit. So the quickest way for them to leave is probably to assault a prison employee.
Okay.
So there's a lot of that takes place. And again, there's a lot of drug activity there's a lot of bartering that takes place inside the prisons, and inmates get themselves in debt, and they can't get themselves out of it. There's a lot of drug activity inside prisons.
Well, how do the drugs get in the prisons?
There's a variety of ways. A lot of times from visitors, a lot of times from the prison guards and the employees inside the prison. Again, they're willing to pay, and the cost of, or the price of drugs inside the prisons is probably 2 or 3 times more than it is out on the street.
So prison guards become corrupted.
Well, and that does happen. I mean, I'm not saying that all of them does, but again, they find themselves caught up into, like I said, they see those people differently than what they really are, because inmates are very, I'm going to say inmates are very smart. They're very intelligent. They got a lot of time on their hands, and they're very slick as far as manipulating the employees. And sometimes the employees fall for it, and sometimes they get caught. And then if they get caught doing something that they're not supposed to do, the inmate will, obviously make a threat saying, if you don't do this for me, then, I'm going to report this.
Tell me how you lay out your book. Do you go from case to case to case?
No, I just went from, actually, it was an inmate that I knew inside the prison, and I didn't use his name in the book, but it was somebody who obviously was a gang member, and he comes back to prison for the 3rd time. He's a repeat offender, and I guess that's what the relapse is because he has an addiction to drugs. He can't survive on the street. And again, with the culture, the way it is inside the prison, he adapts, or he gets along better inside the prison than he does out on the street. So it's just kind of about his involvement in one of his cellmate at the time is connected to one of the gang members, and he has a debt that he has to pay. It was a previous debt from a previous incarceration. So he has to pay that debt, and he has to find ways to make the payment. And a lot of it is connecting with family members on the outside who will help him pay off his debt to other inmates' families. So it's just it doesn't bounce from case to case, but it talks about these cases. It talks about how employees get manipulated in the things that inmates do to try and manipulate them to get them to do things that they want them to do. If you can talk to any prison investigator, you'll find that at most prisons, there's probably about 4, maybe 5 times a year where they're investigating an employee being involved sexually with an inmate. So there's actually more cases that are reported than that, but there's actually about 4 or 5 that are substantiated per year.
That's crazy.
Well, again, I'm telling you, the inmates are very smart. They know how to manipulate people, and they got a lot of time on their hands. They got 24 hours, 7 days a week, and they're always thinking about ways of getting ahead and being in the game. That's how they get the employees caught up in the situation. It starts out with something small. Can you do this for me? Can you do? And they're very nice to the employees. They're very kind. They treat them very nice. They talk to them. And like I said, they're out there with them on the units for 12, 13 hours a day. And they just see them as somebody different than somebody who was out there on the street having committed a crime.
Do you feel action needs to be taken?
And I'm not sure what can be done, because there's very few people who are willing to go work in a prison. It's not, and the ones who want to come to work in prison, they actually want to become police officers, and they look at this as maybe their stepping stone to be able to get onto a police department. But again, because of the manipulation from the inmates, a lot of them just don't make it. And again, the prisons have to lower their standards to hire a lot of people, because they got to have those positions filled. But there's a big turnover. There's, in the prisons, there's probably 50, 60, maybe even 70% turnover rate. They don't stay around very long, either for the fear of their own safety, or if they've made a mistake and they just don't want to get caught.
What's the takeaway?
What I want people to see is the challenges that correctional administrators have to face, not only with the inmates themselves, but with the hiring of employees and, having good quality employees work inside the prison. And the fact, like you said, there's a high turnover rate.
Could we do a better job of bringing down the recidivism rate? Like, is there a way to rehabilitate prisoners so there wouldn't be so many people in prison? I just feel like we incarcerate so many people in this country.
Well, and you'll find that prison administrators, they tout the fact that if they have only a 25% recidivism rate, they think that that's a good number. And that's a horrible number. If you got 25% of your inmates coming back within 3 to 5 years, it's a culture. There's probably some people in this country that just need to be locked up and stay locked up. And a lot of inmates adapt to the structure environment. And after a few years, they become adapted to it, and they kind of enjoy it.
Well, it's home, right?
Yeah, they get 3 square, and then they've got air conditioning, they got TVs. I mean, it's just, and they got a lot of friends in the prisons. They know a lot of people. Again, this is their housing environment, and they know that they have to get along with other inmates, and they have to go along. They get themselves involved in gangs for protection. But again, I think that there's, because they know that this is something that's going to be a long-term process. A lot of them in there for many years. They have to find a way to adapt, and they have to find a way to get along with these people that are housed with them. And again, I think that's why you see a lot of inmates go back to prison. I think that they find this structure is something that they can deal with more, because they're told when to get up, they're told when to go to breakfast, when to go to lunch, when to go to dinner, when to go to bed. It's just something that's 365 days a year. And if you listen to a lot of their calls when they talk to their family members, they have family members who were in the prison not at the same time, but they talk about when your dad was there, or when your uncle was there at that. So it's, like I said, it's almost like a culture.
Do you think that there are innocent people behind bars?
I think the likelihood of that is very, very little. Again, they will all tell you that they're innocent. They'll all tell you that they didn't do it. The prison is full of innocent people, but I think very little people are. It's just a minute percentage that may happen to. But I think with our having I worked in the court system for 6 years, I think our judicial system does an excellent job. I think in order for somebody, number one, if you read about some of these cases, a lot of people have been arrested 20, 30, 40 times before they even see the inside of a prison. So it's not just their first incident that gets them caught up in that. I mean, when your more serious crimes, like your homicides, obviously they're going to go to prison. But again, I think our judicial system, I feel, does a very, very good job as far as protecting their rights.
All right. So what I'm getting from you is the big problem is, understanding our correction officers, what they have to deal with, what they go through. Is there anything that we can do to prevent this high turnover? Because the high turnover, it sounds like the high turnover is part of the problem.
Oh, it is. And I guess that probably goes with maybe with the salary. Although money is a temporary motivator. I think the salaries, if you look at what correction officers make, they can do better someplace else. So that may help for a while. I don't know.
How about the hours?
Yeah, the long hours. But again, the long hours has to do with the high turnover rate and the shortage of staff.
I mean, I feel like we're like in a vortex here that we can't get out of.
Well, and I think a lot of it is I think, it's part of our society that people choose to ignore. They don't want to know anything about it. Once the person is locked up and they've gone away, it's just like, even police officers. Having been a police officer for several years, I can tell you I was somewhat shocked at some of the activities that takes place in a prison and how difficult it is to manage.
Wow. Are you going to keep writing?
I've got a follow-up book that I'm working on.
Okay. Did you enjoy this process?
I did. It took me, it took me longer than what I had thought. Because it's one of those things you start and then you put it down for a while, then you don't get back to it. And then about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I thought, well, I'm just going to go ahead and finish it and see what happens.
Are you promoting it at all? You talking about it?
I'm trying to. And I guess this is one of the reasons for doing this podcast is to promote the book. And like I said, the people who have read it have said that they're totally shocked of what takes place.
You would be great talking to schools, kids in school, high school.
I've done that as a police officer, and I don't know if that would be, because I don't know if you remember the Scared Straight program.
Yes.
That lasted for a couple of years, and then all of a sudden it just kind of went away.
Do you think it was worth it? Do you think it was a good program?
I don't know. I think it probably was effective, but and it's just like the DARE program in the schools. I think it's temporarily effective because you're kind of preaching to the choir. You're kind of preaching to people who, have either experienced those types of things with family members. So I don't know how far you can reach out. And again, the DARE program in middle school, those kids are impressed. But again, as time goes on, I think people forget.
I think what scared me about the DARE program when my kids were in it was the idea that pot, cocaine, and heroin were all the same.
Yeah.
And that's just not true.
I agree.
Not all drugs are the same. And that bothered me so much.
Yeah.
I was just like, wait a minute, we have to make a distinction here.
Yeah. I think the DARE program was good in the fact that it got kids connected with police officers and seeing them as more of a person than somebody that's a figurehead that they need to be afraid of. So I think that in that respect, it was good.
Yeah.
Because the book is based in Oklahoma, my plans is to reach out to some of the media in the Oklahoma area.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Joseph Sebenick, author of Going Back to Prison, The Relapse into Criminal Behavior. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate your call.
Valentiney Christmas always enjoyed telling and writing stories, but it took her dog, an injury, and a commercial to convince her to publish The Misadventures of Snacky Bassett. Snacks gets adopted.
Well, the dog, actually, Snacks, she's the first animal that I had ever had. And when we were first together and some of the adventures that we were having, I thought to myself, I can't make up some of the things that happened to us throughout the day. I should start writing this stuff down. And that was years ago. And I had always intended to write my stories down for, someday my kids, and just very generically, like type it up, hole punch, tie it together with ribbon kind of thing, let my kids create the illustrations. But what actually got me to write this story was I had the time to do it. I ended up needing surgery and wasn't allowed to be on my feet for a few weeks. And I just kind of gave that time to God. What do you want me to be doing while I'm sitting here accomplishing nothing for you? he put it on my heart. Well, hey, you've always thought about writing these down. Why don't you go ahead and write one? And I never actually, I was just writing it to give myself something to do and to boost my spirits. And then when it was finished, I decided I kept seeing these commercials for Page Publishing. And so I'm like, oh, I'll send it in, and let a professional tell me, yeah, let's just keep this in the family, But to my great surprise, they said they wanted to publish it. And I was totally blown away. I thought that it was a joke at first, I mean, not that they would be joking with me, but I just never imagined that I would ever hear that response. So it was a fun surprise.
That's great. So what's the story?
It is about a little basset hound named Snacks, and it's her journey finding her way to me and ultimately being adopted. Well, I'm a very faithful person, and I was having quite a difficult time in my life, and I was very prayerful about it and asking God to bring me some help, which I assumed would be in the form of an adult human, for guidance and advice. And he answered that prayer in the form of a little dog. And this dog, basically, this dog needed a home. I needed a friend, God is reminding me that he's showing me his unconditional love through this dog. And she has been through a lot before she came to me. And she had a good life before me, but then had a rough several months. And I tell that in the story. So I think, it's geared towards like elementary age kids and younger, but they get to experience Snack's journey, going through, we'll say the foster care system, but she has to move from home to home until she gets to her forever home. So it's her journey and her perspective. I tell it from her perspective, just always kind of looking for the blessing in everything. It's about perseverance and courage, and it's meant to be inspirational, and I think that it is.
How did you find her?
So I was looking for a basset hound, and she was on the Droopy Basset Rescue League website. And I reached out to them, and they had, a handful of basset hounds that were available. And I did not want a puppy because I've never had an animal, so I have no idea how to handle a puppy. But I wanted an animal that was probably closer to like 2 or 4. And Snacks came to me at 7 years old, and she had been with an older lady who loved her very, very much. She was a little couch potato. She was a little bit chubby when she came to me, but she was so loving and so sweet. But it was through them I did a meet and greet, and I mean she chose me as much as I chose her. When I came in, she walked right over to me, and that was it.
Yeah.
And then we went around the store together. We played together. We spent a lot of time together at the store, and that's all in the story. Meeting at the meet and greet, going through, playing with the toys, just getting to know one another. And it was that was it. I knew it.
Is this the beginning of a series of books?
Hopefully, yes. I have about 42 other adventures that I shared with her that I'd like to share with the world. But we'll have to we'll see if they accept the next manuscript.
What are you doing to tell people about this book?
So the publishing has a great marketing organization. I'm still learning terminology since I'm new to this, but they're helping me launch it on social media, all across that. It's on Amazon, it's on the Barnes & Noble website, and then they're advertising all of that through social media mostly. And then Snow Tree Media has also gotten involved, and they will be doing, like now through January, managing all my social media specific to the Snacky Basset book. I've spoken with Barnes & Noble about a children's event, doing not just a book signing, but a book reading. They also typically do a craft and a snack related to the story. So hopefully they will have me at their facility at the South Hills location. And I'm hoping to do book readings in libraries and schools and local bookstores and anywhere and everywhere. And then, everything that's on social media for moms to see that this is something that's available as well. So
Great. Valentiney Christmas, author of The Misadventures of Snacky Bassett, Snacks Gets Adopted. Thanks so much for talking to me.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Davinna K. Wilberg died last summer, not long after writing a book with Dr. Mosetta, Penick, Phillips-Cermak. It's entitled How Christopher T. Twinkles Came to Be. Mosetta, my condolences. Tell us about Davinna.
Davinna was incredible. The Vietnam veteran who saw active duty, and she's buried in Dallas Fort Worth Military Cemetery.
What was your relationship with her?
She and I have different mothers, of course, but we believe we have the same father. But we really didn't even want to find out and do the genetic testing because we're so much alike. At least we've been told we're so much alike that we just got along wonderfully. Okay. About 2 years ago, Davinna said to me, she said, "I want to write a book before I die." And I said, "Well, you're not going to die, you know." I said, but I'll help you write a book, you know. And she sent me 350 words and said, "I finished this book and I'd like you to look at it." And I said, "But this is not a book, you know." So then she said, "Well, can you teach me how to write a book?" I said, "Well, yeah." I said, "I'll help you. Anything you want me to do, I'll be happy to help you do it, you know." Davinna was really, really into outer space and sci-fis and things of that nature, and that happened to be one of the things that I used to like to watch together. We used to watch on television, talk about so many old things that we had seen when we were kids. You know, those really weird sci-fis that made no sense, you know, in modern times. And so she said she wanted to write a sci-fi, but she didn't want one that was about killing a bunch of people and monsters and all that kind of thing. And I said, "Well, what do you want to make it about?" And so she had come up with this idea about universal love. And I said, "Okay." I said, "What's going to be your symbol?" And she said, "Well, I'm going to use teddy bear as a symbol of universal love." And I said, "Oh, that's a great idea," you know. But then, like I said, then she gave me 350 words, and she said, "Can you write something from this?" And I said, "Yes, and I can show you how to work with me, and we can write it together, you know." And that's what we did. So we wrote every day for at least 12 hours, starting in the morning and taking a break and you know, at lunchtime, and then coming back and working in the evening. And she had brilliant ideas as far as I'm concerned.
So new life forms are created every day, including on a loading dock on planet Zora. A lonely outcast, Missy Chrissy, is a dock worker convinced she's going to get fired. She drops a shipping crate. It shatters. She's sure she's going to lose her job. And she clutches an earth-built teddy bear that tumbled from the crate and covers it with her tears. And suddenly the stuffed toy teddy bear moves. So what happens here?
What happens is that the mixture of her tears and her creative powers, because they don't seem to understand creation the way we understand creative powers. And her tears, on that teddy bear, plus her energy is transferred into the teddy bear, because the teddy bear is made on Earth. Okay, and so they are able for some reason to transfer this onto this Earth teddy bear, and it comes to life. And from being out in outer space, it manages to pick up an energy that has its own soul and its own ability to show love and know right from wrong. And it begins to manifest that everywhere it goes.
The king says that the teddy bear has to be returned to Earth and destroyed.
Yeah.
Why?
Because he's afraid of it. He thinks that it is something contrary to what their beliefs are. And she says that it's hers because she created it. She gave it life.
Okay.
And that she was not going to allow it to be destroyed. And Davinna's concept there was that women are always there to protect something that's innocent and young, and that we are so strong that we can fight for anything that's going to hurt an innocent or something that's, a baby or whatever.
Oh my gosh. So this whole thing winds up in court. We're going to have a court case to decide the fate of the teddy bear, and we find out in the book whether the teddy bear survives to deliver a message for the universe. What's the message?
The message is one of love and working together and peace. And her idea on the book, it was that universal, that a teddy bear is a universal symbol of love all over the world. Children all over the world have teddy bears. And she said that if she had her way, it would be all over the galaxy. There would be teddy bears and as a symbol of love and friendship and whatever. And that's what she would love to see. She said she would love to see teddy bears even just given as friendship to each other. And I think that when she first came back from Vietnam, she was so traumatized by some of the stuff that she saw that she didn't know how she wanted to express it. And I know she wrote, when she was a cartoonist also, and that's what she really was good at. What she could do well was, she was a cartoonist, and so she used to do cartoons for one of the military magazines and what have you. But and some of her cartoons were actually used, put on airplanes and stuff when she was, because women weren't allowed to fly in combat.
Were any of her cartoons in the book?
No. I asked her about that. She didn't want to do that. I promised her that no matter what happened, I would get this book published. How
are you telling people about this book?
Well, we had decided that we would use Frozen Books to publish it, and we bought their package. And then anybody and everybody that I can contact, I'm contacting them, and I send them copies of the book and that kind of thing.
Well, you're a really good friend for doing this. Davinna K. Wilberg and Mosetta Penick Phillips-Cermak, authors of How Christopher T. Twinkles Came to Be.
Right.
Thanks so much for talking to me today.
Well, thank you for calling.
Edgar Stiltner is an aerospace engineer who writes sci-fi. The Eyes of the Wizard King, A Balance of All Things, is the second book in his trilogy. Give us the backstory here, Edgar.
Well, the first book starts out talking about three brothers. We have the youngest is Kel, and he is working on the farm with his parents. His older siblings, who are twins, they've left the farm to pursue their own careers. One turns out to be a monk, and the other one a soldier. So Kel is left at home and is expected to carry on with the farm, which he's happy to do. Unfortunately, things don't go well. They're attacked by a group of bad guys, and the parents are killed. The farm is pretty much destroyed. Kel is left unconscious under a giant bat, and one of his brothers finds him there before he passes away. So then from there, they try to find out what happened, who did this, and why.
Where are they?
So I've created a world where there's a Mother Earth. I just call her the Mother, and she's because of a cataclysm, she has actually become conscious. Normally, the Mother would be not conscious, not able to interact. Now she is conscious, and she's trying to help with getting the world back to normal. Then there are larger forces, and I call them the creator and the destroyer. So we have a God and a Satan-like um, um, creatures in the book. And so the creator, all he does is go through the universe creating these planets and life. And the destroyer comes up behind him, and his job is just to destroy them. So that there's always a need for the creation, and it's a balance. It's a balance. So the balance is what's important here. And because the mother on our planet, on our Earth here, is conscious, and she's using her powers to help get the world back to normal, and that causes an imbalance. And that's what the second book is about. So the second book, this imbalance, is something that really can't you can't have that. So the destroyer sends one of his minions to the world, and his job is to confront Kel, who has gone from a farmer to a wizard, and that's all part of the first and second book. And but they can't fight. The interesting thing is that they can't fight directly. So if the two forces were to meet and conflict directly, you'd have the greatest powers in the universe, creation and destruction, and that would cause a cataclysm that could end all life. So it's a game. So wow. The minion from the destroyer, he has to convince Kel to actually give up and kill himself to restore the balance. And he's done this many times. And so he, through different machinations, he is getting Kel's family to work against him, and he's getting Kel to a place where he's really distraught, and he's really close to the end. And that's kind of where the book will come to conclusion. This particular plot, this particular person, is that plot comes to conclusion in the second book, but it continues in the third book. So there's still the problem of the imbalance in the universe, and that still needs to be fixed.
So the imbalance still isn't taken care of,
right?
Edgar, where did this come from? Do you play video games or something? What?
No, not at all. I'm not too old for that. So I don't know. I've got three brothers, which is interesting because as way into the process of writing the story, I realized the three brothers are all me. I've got the young man who's the farmer. I'm a homebody. I have relatives who do farming for a living. I've worked on farms. So that was cool. And then I'm a martial artist. I trained in karate since I was 12 years old. I go to Japan and Okinawa often. I'm actually a 9th degree black belt in Okinawan style of karate called Seido-kan. And of course, I'm a religious man. I read the Bible and I go to church. So one of the brothers is a monk. So it kind of all, as I realized as I was writing this, they're all kind of aspects of me. So I didn't mean it to be that way.
Now, are you talking about your book? Do you share your book with people who are interested in sci-fi?
I'm learning. So the first book I published, I thought, it's a good book. People are just going to buy it.
No, you got to get out there.
That's not quite the way it works.
Got to get behind it, yeah.
I did no marketing. Yes, man, I did no marketing. So the second book I'm going to try. I'm trying harder. And it's kind of a nice connection because I can mention both books. And the second book is also on Audible, which has been helpful.
Being on Audible?
Yeah.
How so?
I get more sales.
So putting your book on Audible helped you increase sales?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There are people who just don't have time to read, and they'd rather listen to the narration.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's going to be a trilogy, so I think I can talk about that too. I mean, I've got the draft of the third book done, and we're going through edit now. And probably in a couple of months it'll be available.
And then what, Edgar?
I don't know. I don't know. I've written a couple of books on the martial arts. They're both out of print now, but so I like to write. So I don't know. Science fantasy for me is kind of a way to escape. I have a pretty stressful job, and so if I want to try to go to sleep, I usually pick up a book and read, and it kind of relaxes me. And science fiction, is science fantasy is the way to go. I read Lord of the Rings as a young man, and I just haven't stopped with that genre. The problem with reading Lord of the Rings first is it not much compares to that. It's kind of like reading the very best, but it's really, I fell in love with the genre by reading Tolkien.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people did. You're not alone there.
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
All right. You are Edgar Stiltner, author of The Eyes of the Wizard King, A Balance in All Things, Book 2. Thanks so much for talking to me.
Oh, listen, it was my pleasure. You take care.
Markas Young has been writing for as long as he can remember. In 2006, he published a poem on PoetrySuite.com, and now he's published Serial Killer Circuit, Constance's Plight. What was going on in between, Markas?
I actually have a few books out before that, and we came up with, me and a business partner of mine, somebody that was giving me advice on how to sell books. He's like, you need to write something that's going to sell. And I was always teetering on the idea of writing serial killer novels. And, that's why I went ahead and did that, man, because that sells. Like, a lot of people are tuned into that. Like, so it's weird, kind of.
You think a lot of people are interested in serial killers?
I mean, the statistics show that people are. It's kind of crazy for real.
You wonder how people are capable.
Right. It's kind of what's the word I'm looking for? It's mesmerizing because you're like, wow, are you serious? He did that. She did this.
Yeah. Your serial killer is Constance Plight?
Yeah, Constance is her name, but it's Constance's plight, like her struggle, her journey. From the beginning of her plight, should I say, like her dad, like she found out that her dad was being sneaky with, when her mom got sick, like her mom fell ill. I want to say it was like Crohn's or so. I don't want to give too much of the details out, but yeah, she fell ill, and she wasn't able to like be active in Constance and her father's life. So her dad started seeking the attention of another woman that he said was her aunt, but come to find out that he had like kids with this lady. But she found out about that, and then she had a episode where her dad fell ill, a little trucking accident. Like he was a dispatcher, and he arrived at the trucking yard that he worked at, and he noticed there was a truck driver like passed out. So he gets out to help him, and he didn't realize there was an oxidizer spill, like it's like an ammonia, spill, and it like took him out for a little while. So she went to foster care, and while she was in the foster care system, she had got taken advantage of. So like it was a trickle down effect of like psychological trauma that like turned her into this killer.
So this all of these things put together, she kind of snapped, it sounds like.
Yeah, she snapped, yeah. Psychological break and stuff, yeah. The psyche can only take so much trauma before, it breaks. Some people can endure more than others. Some people are easily broken, but she took a lot of trauma before she broke. A lot happened to Constance.
How many people does she kill in this book?
All right, so she kills the doctor, right? And then there's a second guy that ends up in her web. Like, he's just not a good dude. But, like, she didn't want to kill him because the first person that she killed, nobody like really knew the truth about him. So like his family was really upset about his death. So like her MO changes and she's like, I want people to know what these men are doing. You know, I want their families to know what they're doing. So like there's a twist on it. Like she kind of leaves them in a bad way for their family to find them, but she also leaves evidence of their infidelity at the scenes of the crime. So like when I write the second one of this, it's gonna be really interesting because it's gonna be like she's matured into this. She's not really a serial killer, but she's like she's gonna mutilate people. She's a surgeon and stuff, so she can do it like with precision, you know. But the second guy that she kills like happened by accident, but like she does something that mutilates him and he died from the complications of it. You know what I mean? It's pretty deep, man.
How many books do you think you have here?
With that series, I'm sitting at eight ideas. I wrote the second one already. It's called The IP Killing.
You describe Constance as a new kind of serial killer. What sets her apart?
What sets her apart is really that she's not a killer. She's just tired of narcissistic, chauvinistic men having their way with people, and she wants to expose them while also doing a horrendous feat to them. Like it's a horrendous act that she commits. Like you'll see. Hopefully, you read it one day soon. It's crazy for me.
So where do you talk about this book?
I mean, I have a YouTube channel. It's Markas the Author on YouTube. And then I have a Instagram that's also Markas the Author. It's a new YouTube channel. And I plan on coming home and doing some little book signing stuff.
Okay, so you're using mostly social media.
Yes, man, social media. Hey, got a book dropping. It's called the Black History Month Poetry Collection, 28 poems for the 28 days of Black History Month.
That's great, Markas.
Yeah, it's some powerful stuff in there, but yeah.
Do you do some poetry slams? Like, do you do some open mic stuff?
We're actually about to start an open mic on my TikTok, and you can reach me on there. It's Markas the Author on there as well.
Markas the Author.
Markas the Author.
All right.
Markas the Author.
You got it. Markas Young, author of Serial Killer Circuit, Constance's Plight.
Yes, ma'am.
Thanks so much.
And thank you. I appreciate your call.
We hope you enjoyed this edition of the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable, where authors from all walks of life come together to discuss the trials, tribulations, and triumphs of publishing their books. I'm Alice Stockton Rossini. We hope to see you back here every Saturday night at 8 o'clock, or listen to our podcast anytime on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, and PodServe, just to name a few. The Author Roundtable is sponsored by ReaderHouse Online Bookstore, where independent new authors come first.